Hello, I'm Dave Moore with PITC, and today we're going to be going over the testing procedure for an RPBA. The device that we're going to be testing today is a Watts RP957. The first step of this test is to flush our test cocks of any debris or dirt that would have settled in there. Once we've flushed our test cocks, we take our high hose and we connect it to test cock number 2. The first test that we do on an RP is checking our pressure differential across check 1. We have a minimum spring tension of 5 psi on check 1 in an RP, so we must maintain above 5 pounds for 2 minutes during this test. We're first going to pressurize our gauge and bleed our gauge. Once we've pressurized and bled our gauge, we're going to isolate our device. Once we've isolated our device, we're going to open up our test cock number 3. And now we're going to observe our pressure. Right now we're resting at 10.8 psi. As long as this remained constant for 2 minutes, that would be recorded as a pass. The next test that we do on an RP is see when our relief valve is going to be opening. We do this by slowly opening our bleed needle valve on our low side hose and observing when our relief opens. And there our relief valve is opened at 4.8 pounds, well above the 2 psi minimum on our relief valve spring. So that would be recorded as a pass. Our buffer is then established by subtracting our 4.8 pounds of our relief spring from our 10.2 pounds on our first check pressure differential. That has a minimum of 3 psi. We're well above that here, so this would be recorded as a pass. I'm going to move on to the next step of the test. I'm going to take our high hose from test cock 2 and move it to test cock number 3. We're going to close our test cocks and re-establish pressure in our device. Once we've re-established pressure in our device, we're just going to re-establish flow through the device by opening up test cock number 4. Getting all that air out. Once we've opened up test cock number 4 and re-established flow, we'll close that. And the next test that we do on an RP is we're going to test our check 2 and forward, or our pressure differential across check 2. We have a minimum spring tension of 1 psi on check valve number 2 in an RP device. So again, we must maintain above 1 pound for 2 minutes. So first we're going to pressurize our gauge and bleed any air out. Once we've gotten out all the air, we're going to close that and then isolate our device. And then we're going to open up test cock number 4. Again, because of our minimum spring tension of 1 psi, we must maintain above 1 pound for 2 minutes during this test. So here we are resting at 1.5 pounds, or 1.6 psi to be exact. That's above our 1 psi minimum, so as long as we maintain there for 2 minutes, that would be recorded as a pass. We'll then close our test cocks, move our high hose from test cock number 3 to test cock number 4, and perform the last part of our test. The last part of our test is checking check 2 in reverse flow. We do this by first re-establishing pressure in our device. Pressurizing and bleeding our gauge. Once we've pressurized and bled our gauge, we're going to isolate our device. And open up test cock number 3. So right now our pressure differential is too great to read on our gauge because it only goes up to 15 psi. So we're just going to drop our gauge to a readable level. For this test, we just must maintain a constant pressure for 2 minutes. So we'll observe our gauge for 2 minutes. If our needle stays constant at 8 psi here, that would be recorded as a pass. We'll close our test cocks, remove our high hose from test cock number 4, and return our device back to service.